Hello. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Latino Theater Company Live. Today, we're having a discussion about Home, which the archival screening premiered last night and will go all the way to October 1st. But just before we get into that, I just want to remind you, as I just said, Home will go all the way to October 1st. You can watch it and screen it at any time. Tomorrow is our last day. It's your last day to watch La Víctima. It comes off at 11:59 p.m. PST, Pacific Standard Time tomorrow, so you can watch that on our YouTube page. Also, our reading of Sleep with the Angels, a new play by Evelina Fernandez, that goes all the way to September 27th. And this Friday, we will be doing our last reading, online reading, and it would be Just Like Us by Karen Zacarias, directed by Fidel Gomez. That would be this Friday, September 25th, and it goes all the way to October 4th. October will bring us the screenings of Mother of Henry and the Mexican Trilogy. November will bring us our new reading series all month long. And then we close up the year, finally, with our gift to the city, La Virgen de Guadalupe, all on here. You can watch that on our Facebook page, facebook.com, or youtube.com/Latino Theater Company, or via our website, the latc.org/live. Yeah. Hello.
Can you say that again fast?
Yeah, latc.org/live. I think so. I think I got it right. I always mess up. But hello. Today we have writer and performer of Home, Nancy Ma, and Latino Theater Company founding member, and also director of this wonderful play, Geoffrey Rivas. Hello, how are y'all?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me. This is the only thing that we that I get dressed up for.
Just want to let the audience know if anyone's watching, that Nancy is actually all the way in New York, and this is
Oh, that's right.
Just want to thank her for giving us the time to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
New York City. Well, we hope that folks watching or that got an opportunity to watch the archival screening last night. As I mentioned, you have all the way until October 1st. You can watch it at any time, 2 a.m. p.m. You can pause it and come back to it for free of this work. We did this, we produced this last year, right? 2019?
Yes.
Wow. Now, Nancy, can you take us a little bit back on the process? How did this story come about on you to write this one-woman play?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I never wanted to do a one-person play, and I feel like that might be a similar story
Yeah.
that a lot of people would say. But a friend had suggested that I start writing to do stand-up, and slowly that evolved into little vignettes, and then evolved into a play. So I ended up putting up a version of a show back a few years ago, and then just came to one of these one-act festivals and then found me.
Wow.
And then you can continue the rest of the story.
No, actually, there's a little caveat to that. No, you contacted Diana Yanez, who I directed her in.
That's true, yes.
You worked with her on her one-woman show.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
Mm-hmm. Wow, yep.
And then you asked her some question, and she dropped my name. Then you invited me to come to the One Act Festival in Burbank, and I did. And I thought, this is the funniest thing, because I said, who's your director? And she said, me. And I said, and then you don't need me, because what I saw, it was pretty well directed. Her characters were so strong. I was moved. I laughed. I cried. And but I told her, I go, if you want to work with someone, I'm happy to work with you. Just know that the process may be long.
And when did that process start? What year was that?
That was the year before 2018.
2017.
17, 18.
Wow, okay.
I had a lot of resistance in letting someone kind of mess with your story or kind of shape your story when it's so personal. So Jeff was super patient and kind of working with my level of trust and as it built and allowed someone else into the story to shape it.
Right. Now talk about that process, because I think we sort of had a pre-discussion about this. What you saw or what you had in this one act, when Jeff, became involved, it grew into what we became Home. Oh, that has always been the original title, Home?
No.
Oh.
I don't even, gosh, I'm not going to even say the original title because it probably was not that great. Yeah, I don't even know how it landed on Home. And it probably was something where we had to work together, where Jeff teased out that was the theme of the story, so that it eventually became the title.
Right. Wow. So what was that process like in developing the play that premiered at LATC? Was it, back and forth writing, or what's that, process like, as in a one person show, Jeff, on like,
as a director, you're I have to take her whole story into consideration, where she starts, where she ends. And the funny thing is that as beautiful a play this is, she is still developing as a person. This play can still have an ongoing thing, because it's about her process, her discovery, and where she is. So, that being said, I look at the whole story and see where the highs and lows are. What is that common thread, or how do we make it more common, and how actual we want to be. And again, I always go back to this mantra that the more personal you make it, the more universal it becomes, because you find out that everyone has had a bad uncle, a bad, whatever, or good, whether it's something bad you don't want to share, or something good you don't want to share. But you're not alone. We're not alone. We're not the only ones who have experienced heartbreak. We're not the only one who's experienced, tremendous love. But when you come from such a personal space, I think you open it up, and people see not just you, they see themselves through you. And that's what I think makes her piece so moving, is that there's so many elements about the family. We had such an eclectic audience throughout her run. Many people that came up to me and say, wow, even though she's Chinese, that was my family. Or, I experienced that same thing. And, or like, my dad was just like that.
Right.
Except, something like this. So it's amazing, So again, I just try to push the writer. And, this is interesting, because this is the third play I've directed where it's been written by the actual performers. So what I always do is I say, you're just scratching the surface. If you really want to discuss this, go away, think about it, and write really what's the, you can't just say, oh, and then we broke up and then move on. I was like, wait a minute. No, why did you, there's got to, and when you get into it, then you can gleam and take away or put back in all kinds of things to help make that point even more poignant or bolder.
Right. So it's like a lot of like dramaturgy, putting it on his feet, playing around with it, and then going back and writing more.
Well, I'll let Nancy talk onto this point, but that, again, my point is I got to be respectful. I'm not here to change her story. I'm trying to empower her to make it the best that it can be. So in my pushing her and prodding her, you have to ask her how that, affected her.
So it would be like that, like maybe during a rehearsal, I would kind of do a scene. And then in that, just might ask a question about a specific character or a scenario, or what was underneath that event, which maybe I wouldn't think about, because it's hard to kind of separate yourself from the story.
Yeah.
And often there's like that voice like, oh, that doesn't matter. Like, who cares about that little detail? But having a third person out there to look in and see like, no, that actually is really important, was really helpful. So that's how it would go.
Wow. Yeah, I remember I was doing a show at the same time at the LATC, but I remember hearing from the audience, or I even on social media, what was it like you know, when you finally premiered and friends or uh, got to hear your story? What was that feeling like?
So this is my first play and my first kind of production. So it was just really scary. But like Jeff said, like anytime anyone came up to me and like held my hand and mentioned, oh my gosh, like I know that, like that's like my grandma, or like that's my dad. It kind of makes like the fear and anxiety of the 3 hours of doing the show and the prep before it, like all worth it.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool to see like people receive you in a way that you didn't think they could receive you.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I found was cool, again, audience members that came in, the people who have not seen the show yet, Nancy speaks a dialect that is not as well known as Mandarin or Cantonese. It's called Tusuan, Toisan. And people who came and saw the show actually spoke that language and knew what she was saying. And you got to ask, well, I'll ask Nancy, how did that was, I think, a really cool feedback too that she got. That did, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's always cool. I would always know because they would catch the joke before the translation, and I'm like, oh, someone knows the dialect here. I remember these people came up to me and told me. I was also really nervous because I'm not fluent in the dialect. I learned it just from growing up and being around it in Chinatown. But I was really nervous, like, oh, I'm going to mess up these vocab, and like some historian's going to come in who knows the language really well. And that did actually happen. Like they came in and they said, I don't know if that's the word. You have a strange accent in the way you said that. And I just like never knew, because I mean, that's just like how I communicate.
That's so cool. We talked last week or a couple of weeks with Sal, who was actually opened up the Luis Avalos Theater, where your play was at, and talked about the same thing, you know, these universal stories, and you know how people just connect to it, and as you're saying, like, oh, I had a brother like that, my dad was like that, and that's something really cool in these stories. Is there something that in the process or even in the performance that surprised you when you were developing the play, like of stories that connected you, like reminders of it that surprised you of that had happened?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was, I think when I first started it was a very like black and white idea of like, who was the villain, who was the good guy. Obviously, like, I'm the good guy, you know, in the beginning process of it. And then by the end, it was one of those, oh my gosh, like we were all just trying to do our best. And like, that was like the only way I could play all these characters that, in their like fullest truth. Like they were all just trying to do their best. Even if like young Nancy thought they were villains. So even in that process of like, from doing the play and then coming back to real life and recognizing, oh my gosh, like my parents did just try to do their best. And I don't know if I was gotten to that conclusion as quickly if I didn't do a play where I had to play them like day after day after day.
Right. But that's also a good point too, though, that as she does that for her not to, because at times, you know, in our Q&A with each other, or how it would prod her, I say, you know, you don't judge that character. You got to be the truest to that character, and let the audience decide whether, you know, they're a villain. The way you write it is also going to, you know, tilt it towards one way or another, you know, and the way you play it. So if you're you know, this mean old grandma, you know, don't play them, even play the reality of it, and that will come through. And so that's what we worked on too, is just trying to find, you know, I said, no, you know, she's like, oh, I'm afraid people are gonna, I was like, don't worry about what people are gonna think. If you are true to what was happening there and to that character, that will come through, and the audience will say either they like that character or don't like it, or they'll like that character even though maybe there was a bad quality about it. Because that's one thing that drove me to want to work with Nancy, is her character work was impeccable. I mean, and we really honed and worked on that, so that when you saw the play, you actually saw 15 different family members and friends through her life. That was like, oh, wow, man. And the minute, you know, she brought it back, you knew who that was. So that was, because I've seen some bad one-person shows where it's like,
do you have any favorite one-person shows that you probably saw for just research or anything, Nancy?
Well, Whoopi Goldberg,
Yeah.
like she did. I think that was because I used to hate one-person shows and totally judged it. Probably still judging like the fact that I did a show. But when I saw Whoopi's show, I was like, oh my gosh, it's magic. Like her show and the way Sarah Jones gets in characters. John Leguizamo, it's a little different. His is so smart that I'm like, it's so brilliant. Like, those shows are incredible. Yeah, I'm like, all right, they're not all bad. You just have to be,
Yeah. We talked a little bit about if you had watched it, but you helped with the translations. What was that like watching yourself?
It's like watching an older version of me. And so one, I'm like grateful. There's like a time capsule of who I was in February of 2019, March 2019.
Yeah.
And now looking back, I'm like, oh, that's so gross. Like I would never do that now. So there's a lot of those moments as I'm watching. I'm like, it's so cringy.
Right.
But that was like who I was, and I needed that foundation to be who I am now. But oh God. So hopefully don't judge me from this show, everyone who's watching.
You know, it's interesting. We in a lot of our conversations, a lot of this, answers that come up is like, for example, Evelina as a playwright, but she's also in the play. And even for a lot of us, it's our first time watching ourselves in these plays, and it's like, whoa! And so here we are trying to direct this, and then so we always get the opportunity also to talk to, for example, Jose Luis, who's a director, and if you work with him in one play, and that play gets different iterations of it, you're able to, he changes it, right? Jeff, was there something that you wanted to change or add when you saw this?
Take my headphones out.
No, I think. Look, we had many discussions. We didn't agree on everything. I wanted to add some more visuals to it, and Nancy wanted to keep it a little more simplistic. And I think we found a good blend with it. Same with what type of music we should have underscoring it. So I mean, it's a process for both of us. Whether and again, if this wasn't her play, or if this was some random play that Nancy was choosing to do as a one-person show, I could look at it and go, yeah, you know what, we should really change it. But again, I really wanted to honor her story and what she was about. So for me to come in and think I know better than her in terms of her story, that would be totally wrong, and I think we probably would have clashed pretty harsh, and maybe wouldn't be here tonight. But
Jeff could not be here tonight.
But I mean that's the thing. It's like change. No, I mean I think again, we still want to continue working together. We want to develop it a little bit more and further, and get a little more deeper into the stories if possible, and see where that goes. So yeah, that's where we are right now. But this is killing us not being able to be in our fun workplace,
in our home.
Yeah.
What Nancy or even Jeff, what do you hope audiences take away from this production? I know we talked a lot about it, but for those that probably still haven't watched it.
Nancy,
go
you
ahead.
first.
No, you go ahead. Oh my God.
Okay, before I answer the question, I just want to tell this little quick story to tell you how great this whole process was, and how when Nancy saw the poster that you designed for the show, she lost it, and it was actually, but it was a great thing, just this simplistic thing that you captured from what you read, what little you saw or didn't see, and it just put her over the moon. And that, to me, that collaboration of like when these things work, they work when we collaborate together as artists and are working towards that same goal. So I wanted to thank you, Javi, for creating such a visual
thank
thing.
you. It's interesting. horrible at reading plays. Sometimes it's really hard. Like I like to go into like the first read to get these like ideas of what I'm gonna draw, because I'm like sit me to read the plays. It's like, oh my God, like I have to contact the playwright and what are these things. And I remember like sitting down and reading it, and right away I was just like, oh, and it was actually one of the first ones that I ever did. I had just bought an iPad and it was like drawing it and like all these ideas come fleshing in. One of the interesting things I've been and talking about one person shows, I've been writing this one person show for the longest time of my life. I've written so many monologues that or pieces that it hasn't, developed into anything. But what I do have is a variety of posters for it. So the marketing is done in different forms, different titles. So maybe I have to sit down with Jeff once it's all over and get it together. But on that,
yeah. So I would want people, after viewing this, just again, what I love what we've been doing over the past 30 some years, and even more so since we've been running the Los Angeles Theater Center, is really trying to be that mirror of what LA is, of what this nation really is. It's a mixture of cultures and different ideas and thoughts. And how do we share, learn, and understand each other, and stop the fear mongering, and stop the name calling, or you don't belong here, you look different. But how to embrace that. And what I would want people to come back, leave the theater or leave from watching home, is understanding just a sliver of Nancy's culture, of Nancy as a person, and understanding how what other people go through also. It's not, again, it's not just us being in California, that if you're brown, everyone is Mexican and you're looked down at, or again, it's just trying to create that awareness and knowledge of all our cultures are valued, and who we are as a people should be valued, and how do we take the good and the bad and process that.
Yeah. Wow. Nancy, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, kind of similar to what I was saying before, and then like the tag of it, and even in this moment in time for our country, and like the only way you can really move forward and heal is if you own where you come from and own your past. So I have so much more to own from my past, and like to learn from it, to understand like why I am the way I am today, and how I can improve and grow and take responsibility. So I hope like my story is an example of one of that, so that we can all kind of have that courage to do it for ourselves, so that we can move forward together.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the things that with this pandemic, I'm a big believer that theater changes lives. It definitely has changed mine. And with the work that we do at the LATC, we see that in our grand lobby, right? When people are coming up to you and say, hey, that's my grandmother. And you're like, whoa, you can be from a different city, a different background. And you hear that, I walk around through the lobby and I monitor all the comments that come through social media and YouTube. And it's a constant reminder of the power of theater, right? It's where we come together from different places of the world, into, we sit together, and right now we're able to do it. People for the first time are seeing our plays across the country, right? Only back then it was only people that are coming to Spring Street. So I think that's one of the things that we miss, and I hope that people get the opportunity to watch this play, because I think it really brings that together into the title, right? Home. You're bringing them into this world, and I think it's really powerful. Yeah, that is pretty much it. If there's any, actually, I do want to say there's a little comment here. What would you recommend for someone that wants to write their story? What would be your what would you recommend for them? Oh, we lost Jeff. Jeff logged out. No, I don't know where Jeff went. He probably got stuck.
Oh no. Just start writing, and believing that you have a story to tell. I think so much of it is the self-talk that gets in the way.
Yeah.
But like, it's just right. Like what you're doing. Now you have posters.
I'm just making my post. Maybe my show's gonna have posters all over.
Yeah, maybe that's your show.
Maybe that is my show. Well, Nancy, thank you so much. I hope you're safe in Brooklyn. Shout out to my vecino who's watching, who lives in Brooklyn also. Be safe. And for everybody, hopefully Jeff comes back in before we wrap up. But you can watch Home for free on demand anytime, all the way until October 1st, youtube.com/Latino Theater Company CO. Watch it tonight. And if you haven't watched La Víctima, watch that tonight, and then come back and watch Home, and then Sleep with the Angels. Oh, now you say you're Javi. It's weird. We're just signing off, Jeff.
All right, sorry, my internet kicked me off for some reason. But I want to thank Nancy again for allowing me to sort of lead that ship that she's on, and I look forward to continuing and working with you again too, Javi. So, and thank you to all our LGBT subscribers for tuning in and watching. We appreciate you.
Yeah, we had a lot of great viewers. Keep watching. It's free. If you already watched it, share that link with someone. You know, it definitely brings us closer together. We're able to share. It's sort of like a ticket, you know, just pass it on and share that link so that more people can watch it. Thank you so much. And we'll see you on to tomorrow. Next conversation, just like us, with Karen Zacarias and Fidel Gomez for our reading this Friday. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.